Hello, welcome to what is an isolation update. We're in quite unprecedented times, at least for this generation. We're all learning, we are all adapting, and we're all trying to make the best of what is quite a mad situation. And since you and we are huge cycling fans, what we want to do was call up a few pros to find out how they're making the most of it at the moment. So first, I thought I'd ring two of the peloton's most popular personalities, Nathan Haas of Cofidis and Tom Schoins of Trek Segafredo. Good day, Nathan.
Hello.
And Schmerke, Toms. You're in Girona, I believe.
Cyclists, yeah, in Girona. Hi.
Now, to give a brief history of this pandemic from a cycling point of view, the coronavirus first hit in December, but it didn't affect the pro cycling until February, and specifically at the UAE Tour. That was a race that was cut short with 2 stages remaining when rumours started spreading of a positive case there for COVID-19. Now, Nathan, you were there. I would say you were on the ground, but you were actually on the infamous 4th floor. What was the first rumour that you heard circulating out there?
There were actually no rumours. There were a few jokes in the peloton, actually, and I'm kind of upset with myself. I feel like I poked the bear, but I joked with some guys in the peloton and I said, you really want to win a stage here because it might be the only stage you get to win all season. But we didn't actually get to know anything was wrong until 3 a.m. On the Friday night after stage 5. We got knocks on the door by people in hazmat suits telling us that we needed to go down for a test. So it was a bit confronting, a bit scary. But there was no sort of forward. Next thing we knew, we were in a hotel for the next few weeks.
And so how were you feeling at that particular point? It must have been a reasonably scary situation.
It felt pretty intense, to be honest. We were in a country where, you don't know how things operate. You don't speak the language. Felt very far from home or anywhere that we kind of felt comfortable in. So it was pretty scary. But we were in a nice hotel. So it was sort of like being in fancy jail. So it was probably the most insane I've ever felt in my life.
I was going to say, what's going through your head at that point? I mean, particularly when some of the other teams start heading home and you're one of the 4 teams that's still isolated and quarantined over there. Because I guess at that point, like you said, the rest of the world was still acting reasonably normally. So you must have felt like you were about to be at like a huge disadvantage for this season.
Yeah, now it seems a little bit like whatever because, the whole world and the whole cycling scene is on pause. But at the time, when everyone else got to go home after 2.5 days, I think 400 or 500 staff and riders got to leave the hotel, but everyone on the 4th floor, which we unfortunately fell into, had to stay for a full 14-day quarantine period. And it felt pretty ridiculous because for over a week of that, we didn't have bikes. The food was, to begin with, pretty bad. It got progressively better, but we just sort of felt like we were stuck in a bedroom eating and watching television for a whole week, going mad and sort of just watching the whole classics and everything you prepared for slowly drift away. But then when we got back to mainland Europe, we started to realize pretty quickly that was not unusual and was going to sort of be the framework for the season.
Almost a relief that everybody was finally in the same situation. Well, it's been a month since then, or since at least it started. So let's see what Nathan has been getting up to since he's been quarantined at the Grand Quarantine Hotel. Very good. I couldn't help but notice in that video that you managed to read an entire page of that Bill Bryson book in about a second. Quick reader?
Yeah, I kind of have that photographic memory. So I just look at it and I kind of come back to it when I need.
Yeah. Well, if only you could read a race like that, eh? I'm only joking. I couldn't read a race very well myself, although I would have needed binoculars to read a race from where I was within the peloton. Now, Toms, you've also very kindly been doing a bit of filming from your own solo lockdown. So let's see what you have been up to.
For the first time in 28 years, I ordered pizza. That was also something I hadn't done. So even in quarantine, you can have firsts. Well, till next time. Or do I have something more to say? I guess I don't. Here we are, a week into quarantine in Girona, Spain, just by myself with my trainer. Okay. Yeah, first full week been kinda dull. I've left the house for less than 3 hours. Have kept busy though, so not really feeling that it's been a week already. And just today they announced that they're extending it till April 12th. Luckily I have a pretty good setup. I not only have the trainer, but I have a fan as well, which actually really helps when you're just sitting on the trainer. And I'm lucky enough that my past self, I gotta give him kudos, invested in a squat rack and some weights. So I've been lucky enough to also include gym work in my routine. It's not really about me being motivated for the race right now, because obviously we don't know when racing is gonna happen and if it's gonna happen. But it's more about just being healthy and being mentally healthy. In Spain, the cool thing they do every day at 8 o'clock, they all lean out of their windows and clap and thank the medics, the doctors, people that are really, really risking their lives to keep all of us safe, to keep our grandparents safe and healthy. And yeah, a huge thank you to them. And I think yeah, those 10 minutes or whatever it is of nonstop clapping it's a small gesture, but I hope those people realize how much people care and how much people appreciate it. Good choice of song. How at hell? We actually might be on it. I mean,
Well, let's hope we're not on a highway to hell. I don't think we are. Although I think you might be on a hairway to hell, Toms, because your mullet is already looking pretty fantastic. We could have a second flying mullet in the peloton by the end of all this. Right, on to the next question. You're pro athletes, so you're very, very competitive, and you must be missing that element of your life. So how are you keeping those fires stoked at the moment? Let's start with you, Nathan.
Well, actually, Tom's and I and a few friends, including my coach, we came up with like a WhatsApp group where at 8 p.m. every night we had to give our result from our personal challenge for the day. And that was anything but ranging from most push-ups in a minute to even who could hold their breath for the longest. So every day we've actually had a little competition, and we've been running it like an omnium. So the winner each day gets 1 point and the person in last gets 5, and it's an accumulation of your scores. And yeah, I think Tom's might be leading right now.
Oh, I'm definitely not leading, but I think breathing was my best one.
I think, Nathan, you'd be good at the book reading competition, judging by how fast you went through that page of Bill Bryson. Toms, in general, you seem to be one of the happiest men that I've ever seen in the bunch. Have you managed to continue that through lockdown, or are you starting to get a bit down?
Well, the happiness remains, but not the being in the peloton.
No, well, that's good to hear. How are you keeping your morale up?
I mean, luckily, nowadays with technology, you have a lot of opportunity to chat with your friends and family. And even though, let's say, I wish that my fiance was here, I feel that it's better that she is closer to her family, because we never know what's going to happen. So I definitely somehow, I don't know why, but I always find bright sides in things. And from this whole experience, I feel like it'll be a good story to tell my kids one day, because they will not believe me.
Well, you never know. This might become the new normal, and your future racing careers could all be on the turbo trainer, although I'll keep my fingers crossed that they aren't. All right, it's time for us to move on now. So thank you firstly to Nathan, and also cheers to you, Toms. We'll speak to you soon, hopefully.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Later.
Bye for now. On the line now, though, we have Cecily Uttrup Ludwig, who rides for the FDJ Nouvelles Aquitaine Futuroscope team. Not just a world-class climber, Cecilia is also famous for her world-class interviews, and so we're delighted to welcome her here on GCN. First up, Cecily, how are you?
Hi, and thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I'm back in Denmark with my parents, and yeah, it's actually really good to be back in Denmark. I'm not here that often, and I don't visit my parents and my family that often, you know. So it's actually nice. Visiting them and being surrounded by family now in this a bit tough times.
And normally during the season, you're based in Girona, which is where Tom's and Nathan are. They're locked inside at the moment and training inside. What's the situation where you are in Denmark?
Yeah, so here we're still allowed to go for a walk and still allowed to ride outside, and which I appreciate so much now. Which, you know, something that, you know, for a month ago was something that we took for granted, that we could just go out for a ride. But now, I enjoyed so much to go out on my bike, mostly alone, but, you know, still to go out and enjoy some fresh air, and like in general, riding my bike just makes me happy, you know, so I really enjoy it.
You're obviously a very competitive person, as all athletes are. Since you aren't able to compete right now, are you able to keep any competitive nature at all in your life right now?
Yes, I mean, but that is, like you said, in my nature. So whether it's when we sit at the dinner table and who can finish their plate first, but what do I compete in else? Sometimes, you know, when you meet up, because I ride outside and then you pass one, and, you know, there is some kind of competitive element, like, especially, I think it's quite funny, but especially if I overtake a guy, you know, sometimes the guys, they cannot handle that a girl is taking over. So, you know, then he'll pass me, you know, and then I'm like, guy, this is not how it happened. And then, you know, that is that's how I keep competing.
It's a problem with guys, isn't it? I'm going to tell you a quick story from 11 years ago when I was racing for Great Britain. We went over to Mendrisio to do the World Championships route, just to practice it and get together as a team. And Emma Pooley was there. And on the second lap on the bigger climb, Mark Cavendish was at the front, and he started to really suffer. So he was drifting back through the group, and he was about to get dropped, at which point he saw that Emma Pooley was still on the back of the group. And I've never seen him suffer so much to make sure that he didn't get dropped.
That's such a good story. It reminds me when I train with the guys in Girona, some of the guys, you know, if they go quite hard on the climbs, and then some of the guys will be like, you know, you can see they suffer, and then they're like, but, you know, as long as you're here, Sille, I'm not going to get dropped, you know, and they even say it,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny.
I also once was out with a group of amateurs, and I thought, well, I'm a professional rider. I can't show that I'm suffering. So I tried so hard to not breathe hard that by the time we got to the top of the climb, my vision started going down because I had not enough oxygen in my brain anymore.
That's a good one.
You know, I took poker face to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, but racing is also a bit like that, right? I mean, it is also a bit poker facing and pretending, right? There is an element of that in racing as well. So I know that, you know, when you pass your competitors, you're like closing the mouth, you know, not like you say, pretending you're not breathing, and then, you know, inside their head, you kind of want to mind them. Yeah, I mean, sorry, my French, but, you know, but you a bit like that, you know, kind of.
But there's the reverse poker face now. Like, you've got Chris Froome, who looks like he's suffering when he's doing a recovery ride. So you don't know the other way.
That's actually a smart tactic. Maybe I should practice that a bit more. Yeah.
All right, one last fun question. Most barbers and hairdressers around the world are shut now. Who do you think out of pro cyclists will have the worst looking hair at the end of all of this?
That is a good one. I guess some of the guys, because the guys, the percentage of hair is getting quite long. Hi there. Your wife is there.
I feel like that. Who was that politician? Who was that politician that got interviewed live on TV, and then his kid came in, and his wife came in afterwards, and he was like trying to stop them coming in. We'll definitely be cutting this out of the video. I hope.
No,
We won't.
I like it. It's sounds good. No, it's good. What was I saying? Yeah, some of the guys.
Anyway, back to work haircut.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you actually doing about haircutting? Are your wife doing it?
Well, I am nervous. No, I am nervous. Like it's been 4 or 5 weeks. The good thing is I'll be saving £20 every time, which is normally every 6 weeks. But it could be huge. It could be huge by the end of this. Anyway, thanks very much, Cecilie.
Cheers.
Hopefully we'll chat to you again soon.
I hope so too. It was nice. Cool.
Now, as mentioned, we were supposed to have the Tour of Flanders this weekend, so I asked GCN's newest and now most handsome presenter, Bernie Eisel, to call up the reigning men's champion, which is Alberto Bettiol, and race organiser Flanders Classic CEO, Thomas van der Spiegel, to find out how they're getting on.
No, we're here now with Alberto Bettiol. And Alberto, thanks for taking the time for a video conference, video interview, and modern days. I mean, how are you feeling?
Thanks, Bernie. Hello, everybody. I'm feeling like living in this new dimension. It's all new for everybody and also for us pro cyclists. So we're trying to reset everything and to plan a new world, so a new perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, it's Flanders weekend coming up, and so you're probably going to remain the reigning champion of Flanders, or you're definitely going to be. Let's see if the race will be held end of the season. But how do you feel then, not being able to compete in Flanders and defend your title?
Yeah, I'm really disappointed not to race, of course, Tour of Flanders. Of course, it is one of my goal of the season to go back there and to wear the number one. No? Yesterday, I had the opportunity to see again the race on television, and I can tell you, it's still full of emotion. Reminds me a lot of good memories. I'm really proud about this win and how the team went in that day, and was really something I never forget for the rest of my life.
Would you prefer then, saying you need a preparation, a focus, a real clear goal? Would you prefer that the Tour of Flanders gets postponed to autumn in 2020, or just skip Flanders this year, shame, and having Flanders on the normal date in 2021?
At the beginning, I thought maybe it's better to postpone and to wait, because probably I never expect that this virus was so strong and was so impact so many countries in the world and so many people. For example, in Italy, we have a lot of people that go out from coronavirus, but at the same time, a lot of people are getting coronavirus. So we are not seeing a lot of improvement. It's better, I think, to just cancel all the season and to start again next year. So because I don't know, maybe Belgium is not Italy when it's really cold, and sometimes you find snow also in Belgium. And but if I speak from my heart, of course, I'm really looking forward to race. So it's really hard.
Thomas, thanks for taking the call. And modern days, we're doing interviews via video conference. I mean, it's definitely kind of sad days for cycling in general, and especially for the Flanders Classics. No Ronde this weekend, and can you talk us a little bit through to the lead up to this situation? how it was for you.
Well, of course, we had, as an organizer, Omloop het Nieuwsblad late February. And that was right after COVID-19 got into the peloton in UAE tour. And that's when I started to worry a little bit, because you could feel that this was a situation that potentially could get out of hand, which resulted in where we are today. So it was a strange process where the situation changed every day, and we were trying to prepare for all potential scenarios. But of course, cancellation was the last one on our mind, and we hoped to be able to avoid that. But then at a certain point, you start realizing that there's people around that know much more about this type of situation than you do as a cycling organizer. And you need to respect what they are saying, and we could really get a feel of the fact that we wouldn't be able to organize. So it is what it is, and the whole world is in a crisis right now. So of course, there's more important things than cycling right now, but it's still tough.
Do you have plans to have the race later in the season, or is this a no-go for you
guys?
We're
certainly looking into that. The only thing that you encounter there is that right now it's very hard to predict when racing will be resumed, so it's very hard to plan anything. There's been public statements by UCI saying that they want to respect the Grand Tours and the monuments. So we're lucky with the Ronde to be a monument, rightfully so. Of course, we hope to organize the Ronde, and we hope for it to be maybe a post-COVID-19 and post-Corona holiday for everyone again, and the first occasion for more than 1 million people that usually attend to come out again and celebrate the fact that life's back to normal.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you, Bernie, Alberto, and Thomas. Now, what Thomas didn't tell Bernie at the time is that there are plans for a virtual Tour of Flanders, and it's going to be held this Sunday. So there's going to be 13 top pro names, including the likes of Remco Evenepoel, Wout van Aert, and a number 1, Alberto Bettiol, who will race the final 32 kilometres of the route online using the indoor training platform Be Cool. I'm very much looking forward to that, to be honest, although I'm pretty sure that the virtual cobblestones of the Paterberg aren't going to be quite as hard as the real thing. Now, speaking of cobblestones, here at GCN, we've been running a vote on our app to crown the greatest ever classics rider. So if you haven't done so already, download the app and make sure you get your vote in over there. And if you've enjoyed this update from the pros, let us know, and also who you would like to see on another episode if we bring it to you. In the meantime, goodbye and ride safe.